For those that's on the committee, this committee, please put in chat, or you can also feel comfortable in saying the role of your favorite TV show, movie, or song. I'll start out with meeting starting at 2:06 p.m. My favorite TV show would be Hogan's Heroes. I've always enjoyed them ever since I was a kid. My name is George Adams, and I'm the chair of the committee. Who's next?
Give people time to put it in the chat.
Oh, it's wet. That way I wouldn't get wet.
I also would like to make point that this is our committee, and if when anything comes up, whether there's a agreement or disagreement, you do have a right to voice your opinion. Please feel free to voice your opinion either in chat or on mic when we are discussing things.
Well, I'll fill the space. Oops, George, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was wondering if Ruth was going to start. Where'd she go?
I don't know.
Looks like she got knocked off.
Well, hopefully she signs back up. Good to see people putting things in the chat. To say that I'm one of the ODHS staff and do the engagement strategies manager for the Oregon Eligibility Partnership. And I was thinking about the question in terms of this past year, and then we forgot to do that, but I'll still say I've been really enjoying this year reservation dogs.
Samantha, what about you?
Oh gosh. Hey, I'm Samantha Brookshire. I'm the business analyst for the customer side of the One System. She, her, hers. I've got Jelly Bean here with me. Jelly Bean is having a beautiful nap. Oh, I woke her up. I'm terrible. Jelly Bean's here for wellness and cuteness. Let me see. What is my favorite? My husband and I just finished watching oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It's on Netflix. Let me Google it really quick. We just finished watching a new Netflix series that was like based on a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe's poems.
Follow the House of Usher. Yeah, that one's one single short story. The Fall of the House
That's
Usher.
it. That's it. What was it again?
The Fall of the House Usher.
Yes. I don't like scary things. So like the very like last 10 minutes of it was like a little bit like I was like, oh, that's too much. But really good. Really enjoying that, or really enjoyed that. We kind of watched it all in one night to tell you how good it is. We definitely like watched 8 hours of it. So yeah, that's what I've been watching, and I really liked it. Perfect for the spooky season.
Thanks. Melissa, what about you?
For my favorite show, well, I have a small child, so I don't get to watch adult shows. So I don't have any favorite shows at the moment.
What about song?
Song. I don't know, James or George. I'm not sure. I'm very indecisive today. Sorry.
You like Charlie Brown and how he's wishy-washy?
Right. That's kind of how I'm feeling.
Angel, what about you?
I like the show Yellowstone.
Okay. Can you tell the committee what your role is?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I am the admin for the project management team.
Okay. James, did you already tell yours?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Judy Richards. A lot of people call me Judith. And I'm with Northwest Senior and Disability Services Advisory Council. I'm also on the SILC, and I also am on the Chariots. That's our bus line here in Salem, and various other groups, of course, the ADRC. Let's see. A favorite TV show, movie, or song. Okay. Music. I like anything that's been done by Leonard Cohen. I absolutely love him, and I hope he's happy in heaven. TV show, yeah, Yellowstone, that's really good. But I also am a real classic person. I like old mystery shows, like anything that has that, like Miss Marple or Perot, any of those old mysteries that are just so innocent and so clean. And I mean, it's a far cry from Yellowstone, but I do love it. And I think that's about it.
Good. What about you, Ruth?
Oh, Ruth couldn't make it today.
Why not?
Oh, well, you told me you weren't coming.
I didn't either.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
I don't really have a favorite TV show. And
Unless it's news. What's
well,
that news
yes,
program you like?
I like to listen to Scripps News,
Yeah, that is cool.
and it has a lot of news that most of the others don't have.
Okay.
And everybody else knows who I am, so
Okay. Dion, did you put yourself in here, Dion?
No, I didn't. I figured since it's my first meeting, I'd just go ahead and chime in instead of just putting it in the chat. So I'm Dion Destin. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm executive support to one of the OEP deputy directors, Jillian Johnson. And my favorite show is The Curse of Oak Island. I have been so stuck on that series for a long time, and I think their next season's about to come up, so I'm really excited. Otherwise, like favorite song, I still bob my head to "Today Was a Good Day" by Ice Cube.
Okay. Mandy, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think, and gosh, I just feel like I don't have time to watch too much TV anymore. For those of you who don't already know me, I'm Mandy Freeman. I oversee the applicant portal technical support team. I'd have to say anything by Stevie Nicks would be my favorite song. I love her. I hope to see her before she's no longer with us. And anything that is crime related or like investigatory shows I like. So anything with like real crime, like maybe 48 Hours or anything like that, I really love.
Okay. James, you're up next.
Okay. So I hope everyone else put it in the chat because we're moving on. And again, we'll have our meeting, our prep meeting next week on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. It'd be lovely if you could join and become a co-chair with us. And just as a reminder, our November and December schedule has been changed a bit. So you should have the calendar invites. The first meeting is longer of the month and the second meeting has been canceled. So let us know if you have any questions or concerns about that. So yeah, there we go. So hopefully you can see all this. The text ended up getting a little small, but we've done stuff, which is great. The is an option, you know, our old numbering system, two of these options, 9 and 11, have been, should be in the system now. So when people change their password, there's a link that takes them back so they can immediately sign in without having to fumble around. And that notice that says passwords expire every 90 days is prominently placed on the sign-in screen. Now, coming up, we have the change in wording that you guys accepted last time for the been approved for withholding of removal question. And I know I heard a few people excited about request 15, the remove banner saying that you need to complete the renewal after you actually submit the renewal. So that should be coming in just a couple weeks, assuming Samantha hasn't heard anything else.
I've heard nothing, so I assume they're in good shape.
Yay.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and then finally, we also have that request 3 about the asking people if they weren't willing to go paperless. So there's all that. Now, this morning, well, Samantha, why don't I just hand it over to you instead of just relaying what you told me?
I'm
About
sorry, guys. I have to be the bearer of bad news. I feel like at the last meeting, I told you guys I was going back and forth with our contractor, trying to figure out different ways to get them to take request 14. They said that adding those, the kind of the new and the updated indicators we wanted was the easy part. The testing was the hard part. The testing was going to put it significantly over 50 hours. I asked them to do some research on some different ways to slice and dice the work. And they've come back that their leadership, and as you know, it's, you know, bosses get to make the decisions. I'm watching James shake his head. Sometimes it's our bosses, sometimes it's their bosses. They have declined to look at different ways to slice and dice this. And that usually means that they're kind of telling us, hey, it would be a bad idea for us to slice and dice it differently. You're not going to end up with a system that works the way you want it to if we try to do this not the right way. So not a lot we can do on getting it as a work item. It's going to have to be a change request. So we haven't really dug in very much on change requests yet. Those are bigger overall changes. They're greater than 50 hours of combined effort between development and testing. So development, you know, coding the system, and testing, making sure that the system still works after they code it. So those are bigger requests. They take more effort to get in. So I'm kind of bringing it back, and I think, you know, the feedback I got from James is we do need to start discussing how we want to pick up these ones that are going to have to be change requests. If we want to go like, okay, if we can't get it in as a work item, let's just, you know, say we don't want it, or yeah, we do want to push it forward as a change request. We really feel like this is a good change to make. And then how we push that forward is something we'll need to pick up as a group and make decisions about. So that's the bad news. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. We tried, and that's the way it's going to be sometimes. Unfortunately, because I'm not a developer, I can't always guess what they're going to say is too complicated. I've been working on the system long enough that I have pretty good accuracy, but it's not 100%. And honestly, the folks from our developer who I spoke to and ran it by in the first place were like, yeah, we think we can do it. And then it just came back way too big and way too complex, and having way too much risk to system stability if we didn't do it right. So these things happen.
So, yeah, for us, I think this means that, you know, we've been juggling a few different things, moving on requests, getting the charter. And we've talked about, there's been other issues that have come up. It's like, oh, that's going to be a change request, which, you know, that old diagram, that chart we had created, the graphics, so that was sort of a different path. And we've sort of been shoving into what people like to say in meetings, the parking lot. And it looks like we're going to have to check out that parking lot and develop a system around that too. So, yeah, I'm really sorry. This is very frustrating. And we'll have to start prioritizing some of these bigger things. George, you were about to say something and I talked over you.
Which request are we talking about that we're having the trouble?
It's the bottom one, 14. This is the one that any screen where you're putting in income, there's a little thing that'll come up, say, hey, it's been updated, or or this little note that's saying it's been saved, things like that. I'm not describing it as well as I should. Samantha, if you have a better explanation on it.
No, because remember, we actually had to go to a visual to really describe it. It's a very hard one to describe in words. It's a picture. But yeah, kind of as James was saying, on that grid where it holds all of your, so if you enter multiple incomes, it'll have a grid of all of the different multiple incomes. And we said we wanted it to have an orange kind of indicator that said updated if they've updated it, if they've updated that record, or new if they've added it new. That's the one we're talking about. We still do have the opportunity to go in and add that static text that explains what the pencil and the X mean. Those will definitely be a work item because it is just a static text.
Okay, so my question to you, you and your staff is this for all three programs or just one program, like SNAP, medical, and state services for 14?
It would be for all programs. Any change we make for one program, we have to make for all because it is a combined system. So we couldn't just do it for SNAP, for example, because we have cases in the system that are SNAP and medical.
So this is for all three programs.
Mm-hmm.
So the screen would just come up for all three, or is it just individually?
When we collect data, we're collecting it for all programs that the person has applied for or may apply for. So if you're applying for SNAP right now and we collect your income information, it's only for SNAP. But if you go in and apply for medical a month from now, let's say, we'll use that same information you provided for your medical benefits as well. We may re-verify it, but it would be that same data. So the screen is for all programs.
So it's not possible to make any changes, but we can put it on a change form down the road. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the testing to make sure when individuals update something and then they move forward and then they come back through the application, navigating back and forth through it, that it's working correctly. They weren't able to fit that into the 50-hour limit. So we can't do it the way we've been doing it. The 50-hour limit changes, the work items, we have to put it into larger change request.
Okay.
Ones are a little bit further out. They're not as quick turnaround on fixes, but they can accommodate much larger changes as well.
Okay, so are you and James asking the committee if we should put this on a change form down the road, or?
I think that's a good question. What the heck are we asking here? I think it's more of, we're just saying that this caught us by surprise. It's going into a bucket that we really haven't been describing. And so my preference, and we can talk about it if you want, is maybe at the next meeting, we'll start talking about what we can do with change requests.
So is the committee, Mandy and all you guys, are you comfortable with talking about the 14 on the next meeting to put it on a change request?
Among other ideas.
Mandy says yes.
This looks like something that we're going to be challenged with in the future. So we should be more aware that there are some things that we have to take the long road instead of the immediate. So, I mean, we don't have any choice. This is what it is. It's what it is. So I'm okay with
I
it.
know I know we had spent some time on it, so just to like continue, because we spent some time and then we had taken away from working on other ones. Is there another way that we can say, hey, this is what we're on? Would it be a change request or would it be something so we don't spend time on it and then
Right.
hit this
right.
roadblock where we're like, oh, we all spoke on this or gave our input and then turns out we can't do it? Like, is there something we can work in? And sorry for the background noise. I'm at my daughter's gymnastics practice, so I apologize.
Ruth, do you feel the same way?
I think that it's a waste of our time just to spin our wheels and not have something come out of it. I agree very much with them.
Okay. What about you, Rosetta?
Yeah, I think it's fine to put it off for now.
Okay, Sydney, what about you?
I agree, George.
Okay. Is there anybody I'm missing? Dion? April?
And Vixen chimed in the chat, so
Okay.
No.
I don't know where the other two's at, so. And I don't see,
Angel and Dion are not voting members, so we don't.
Yeah.
They don't get a say,
Oh.
not with James and I.
well, I guess Samantha, Melissa, and Angel, James, you got your vote, so we can put it on next meetings list and discuss it to put it on the change
yeah.
thing.
And we'll discuss it in our prep meeting next week too, George, and anyone else who can join.
Okay.
All right, so we do have some things that we can talk about on the next slide. That is things that you know, and should probably have a little more structure for this discussion, unfortunately, but this is what we have. The request 6, you know, there's been interest expressed in this one where this classifying the miscellaneous document uploading screen, say that the submittals, which there's various things, are indeed optional, and that this one, since it requires a change in wording, we're going to need to get a draft together. And Samantha, I'm calling you again. It's just to make sure we don't have any pitfalls or anything. This one's pretty straightforward. And I look at my notes too. It implies that you need a legal immigration status, but you really don't.
Right, exactly. So we have added some programs to our menu of programs. One of them being Healthier Oregon, which does not require a legal immigration status to obtain, some other programs as well. But it was also just giving people a lot of concern and a lot of ick. This is one that our community partner outreach program brought to our attention after hearing from our medical assistant community partners that there was concern. So I would really like this group to get a draft of some language together, and then to kind of float it by the community partner outreach program as well, if we could, saying, hey, this is what we're thinking. What are you guys thinking? Use kind of 2 avenues to make sure we get to the best solution on this screen for Oregonians, both OOIC and CPOP.
you want us to do on number 6, or you wanted us to do quest 2 also?
Well,
The
we're gonna get,
request,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think request 2, George, is kind of on our plate, because we have to figure out how we'll collect the feedback and who's going to be in charge of going through the feedback once we have it, right? We don't want to just have a survey out there and then like never respond to it or anything like that. We need people who are going to go through, look at the results, reach out to people if necessary, and then also filter information to our group. So James and I need to do some background work on that one to kind of set it up for success. But I believe that this group did approve it as something we want to move forward with. We just need to figure out how to do it. So it's going to be a little bit of a slow mover.
Okay, I would like to suggest that request 2 can do in 2 ways. The way I'm gonna suggest. When you and James gets together and stuff about the negative and positive stuff and figure out the application stuff, I'd like to suggest also putting, say, like a toll-free number where consumers can also call your department and give negative and positive feedback. That way you're getting it from two directions.
I think calling would be hard because I know ODHS right now at least is struggling with the influx of calls they're getting. Yeah, I don't know about that one because I feel like it's already so hard for some people that are having difficulties accessing services to get things like connected to TPU or turning in documents. I don't know if that's gonna be like a whole nother floodgate.
Okay. So the question to you, Samantha, what is the deadline that you would like our ideas for request 6? What's the deadline date that you want this in, since it's going to be hopefully implemented by December 2023 and January 2024?
So right now we're at the deadline for the end of November release, right? Like it has to be approved. So we're actually filling out the December and the 2 December releases right now. So I think 10 ways to 2, we're looking at January, just looking out, right? Because we want to be basically finalized 8 weeks before we want it to go in. So I think, if we can within 2 weeks, maybe. Is 2 weeks too tight? You guys tell me. Is 2 weeks is saying, hey, can we get to someplace by our next meeting, our next OOIC meeting on language, and then I can take that to CPOP. Is that too fast, or do people think that they can?
No, I think that's good. And I think I want to clarify. So for request 2, you just want to say, how should we do this, right? Is this the question you're asking? Like, what's the verbiage? Is that what you're asking for request 2? Like, is it what it should look like or verbiage, like type of thing? And
I meant request 6. Request 2 is 100% on James and I's plate right now because we have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have to stand up how the department's going to deal with that, and that's allocating humans and jobs. So that's a little bit on us. But what I need from you guys is request 6. And if we work on this over the next 2 weeks, do we think we can have a draft to take to transfer over to CPOP for their review within 2 weeks? Is kind of what I'm asking. I love your enthusiasm.
I think having a goal makes it easier to achieve. We have a point that we need to work on because we've only got so many days to get this in. I think that's great. I think we can do that. Keep us from meandering in our conversations.
That's true, and a great point. Sometimes some people work best under pressure.
I do.
Hey, Ruth, do you feel the same way? Mandy?
I'm in agreement with the group.
Okay, Vixen says yes. Randy says yes. Sydney says yes. Is there anybody I'm missing? Rosetta says yes. Looks like you got your vote.
Cool. Well, just, we're not gonna get any text here. We've got a little bit of time, but this, as a reminder, this is the text we're dealing with.
Wow, that's blurry.
I know. I know.
Sorry, guys. Sometimes my screenshots have been screenshot multiple times. It's like when you photocopy a photocopy, but
Mhm.
technology instead. I think I did pull out the actual text of it, though. Maybe, James. Maybe I
Did
don't know.
you?
I don't know. I thought I did. I thought I
Can
copied-
you enlarge it anymore?
Hey, James, do you want to stop sharing for a second? I have the language in there.
Okay, here, I'll
That
stop
is
sharing.
Nicer to read.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
James, is April part of our committee or?
Yeah.
Because I haven't heard anything from April.
She gave a thumbs up earlier.
Okay.
Oh, look at that pretty.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
Did I make it big enough?
Oh, it's nice and clear. Good job.
So James, Samantha, so I want to make sure I understand this. You guys got our votes, so are we going to be doing this in 2 weeks?
well, I think what we need to do is, I'd love to get just some ideas from the group. We as staff can put them together, get a text and email it out, and people can react to it, give suggestions, and then the next meeting or two will really, one per month the next 2 months, but we can finalize the text.
And so 2 weeks is the next first meeting in November, correct?
Correct.
So we're shooting for 2 weeks.
Yes.
So in suggestions, you mean like, so in this first line, we need proof to see if you're eligible. You may need, so I think like getting rid of that first thing, like that's contradictory. Like we don't, you're saying we need proof. So just get rid of that and say, we may need you to provide additional items to see if you're eligible. Like just, cleaning that. And then if there are additional documents that need to be
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question on the first sentence of the second paragraph. How many people are going to know what that means?
Well, I think that's what this is kind of saying, like cleaning it up, saying like if you feel like it's pertinent to your case, submit it. I think that's what this is saying, right? Like if it,
I'm talking about the terminology of uploading. How many people understand what uploading is?
Hmm.
Could change the upload up to attach them.
I'm not sure what they're attaching it to. Is it upload language you use in other places? I mean, this may be sort of something they've seen in the application already.
Yeah, you see it in a lot of things, if you're if you're doing something online and they say, well, upload the document.
You could just put submit them on this page now.
Rosetta, what do you say?
I'm looking at paragraph 1 and I definitely agree with the other lady. We need to take that first sentence out.
Mandy?
That's as far as I've gotten.
Okay. Mandy?
I'm so sorry. So are you voting to remove that language? Is that what's going
Well,
on?
we're just getting ideas so we can create a draft for you guys next time.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm kind of indifferent. I think it's kind of important to know why we need it, right? To know if they're eligible, but if others think that we should remove it, then I'm okay with that.
If I can jump back down to the terminology of upload versus submit, I think we want to keep upload because first of all, it's used in other places. Second, when we're talking about submitting, the terminology submitting is used in the context of submitting the application or submitting the change. And I think there might be too many conflicting uses of the word submit if we change upload to submit. Also, there are other screens throughout the mobile app. Moving this one to submit rather than upload would result in a change of about 8 other screens where we would have to change the words we're using. So I want to be careful. Maybe what we can do if we're concerned about the word upload, we can define it. We can say, like, if you have these documents available, you may upload them on this page now. Upload means you will attach them to this page from your computer or something like that, however we want to define it. I just worry about us moving away from a technical term that is used kind of ubiquitously and it getting confusing.
I agree. We need to keep the word upload.
Are they using attach for the same purpose later on in this? You may attach documents for John here in the same way as they're using upload.
Excellent point.
Yes, they are. Can we go back to the screenshot for just a second? I wonder if we can scroll down on the screenshot or if I didn't give you a wide enough one. No, of course I didn't give one that's wide enough. Okay, never mind. Oh no, right there
Nope,
it is. Okay.
keep going. No.
Okay, so the button does say attach. So
That was what I'm concerned about, that we're using 2 different terminologies.
that's a great call out. So let's
What
maybe
if we just put upload or attach
right.
them to this page?
What if you do like upload / attach?
Well,
So they don't think it's like one or the other.
could we
Right.
say use, because remember this text is going to be on the screen with that attach button. Maybe just call that button out.
That's a good call out, Ruth.
Isn't uploading potentially different though than just attaching? Because you have to upload it and then attach it, right?
Right.
So I feel like we might need both of those words, but I think that explaining them, like Sam mentioned, would be extremely helpful because I know that, you know, these words are potentially new for people who, especially newer to the technical world. So
Right.
I think that anything that we can explain would be very helpful, but I think it's important to also make sure that they understand that there's two different things here so that they don't get confused and think that they are the same thing.
And this is also be some seniors using this who are not that savvy on computers.
Absolutely. Yep. I totally hear you there.
I'd love to get some other voices in this.
Come on, guys. Where's your voice? James is here. Who else? All right, Judith, what about you? Vixen?
Vanessa, you came off mute. You're gonna say something?
Yeah, maybe just like highlighting in red or bolding out like that it does not, you're not asking to reattach something. So if a previous one I attached a birth certificate or whatever it was, an ID, that I don't need to do it again. So maybe just bolding that out, but because I can see people getting like, I need to attach again. So just bolding out, like calling it out that you do not need to upload. If you know, if you attached in the past, you do not, we're not asking you to reattach again. So yeah. And then the other one, like, how does everyone feel about removing, like, I want to keeping it short and sweet. Sometimes it feels like when you get on a page and it's a lot of overwhelming information, people kind of just skip through it and they don't read it. So like the document submitted will be scanned for viruses and malware. Like, is that just like random, or is that like if it's kicked back? Because if it's kicked back, maybe it can be smaller and red in the bottom. Like if you receive an error, it could be, you know, attachment may have this, but like, or is it really needed at all?
Great call outs on both of those. For the first one, on that part we just bolded, I do want to call out that you only see that sentence if you're also applying for medical, because there is a prior screen where we tell them exactly what they need to upload for medical. So kind of techie, but so when people are applying for benefits through the One Online portal, they can apply in the same application for their medical, their SNAP, their cash assistance, and their ERDC, right? But we only run rules and get a decision for medical. All the other programs require an interview with a worker before we run those rules. So the only one we can tell you out of the One Online portal, if you got approved for or denied for or pending for, is medical. So for medical, we can tell you we definitely need you to upload proof of your income, proof of your self-employment expenses, whatever. We can tell you definitively. For all the other programs, we don't know exactly what you're going to need because you have to do that interview with the worker. So if you applied for, let's say, medical and SNAP, you'll see a prior screen to this one that tells you for medical, we need you to upload A, B, and C. And then you'll see this screen to give you opportunities to upload anything else you think you may need to upload. But only in that scenario do you see that sentence that we just put in bold. You do not need to upload anything you uploaded on the last screen. If all they're applying for is programs that require an interview, so your SNAP, your cash assistance, and your ERDC, they won't see that bolded sentence. So I wonder if we want to create another variation of that explains what you just said, which was if you previously provided us with some of these things, you may not need to provide them again. I want to be a little bit careful though about the way that we say it, because we don't want to imply that if they previously provided us with proof of income or proof of work schedule, things like that, that they won't need to provide them again, because they do need to re-provide those at every
or updated or
yeah. But like, you're right, like birth certificate, no, they do not need to submit those at every time, and we don't want that. That's huge. That's a huge burden. So how do we say that? And then, yes, you're right. We probably don't need to say the bit about the malware, because if they do upload and the virus scan runs and finds there's a virus or malware in the document, they actually get an error message. So we could cut that one entirely. And that's a good catch that can go.
Samantha?
Yeah.
George, I have seen, I don't know if anybody's noticed it, but I see 4 words with uploads and 2 words with attached to. So if you put the one with, you may upload and attach them on this page now, I think it's going to confuse people because it has 4 upload words and 2 attached. Like you may attach documents. Documents may not be attached to this application. I think there might be some confusion between.
I wonder if we can take these 2 paragraphs here at the bottom and like kind of combine them and simplify them, because I really feel like they're kind of saying the same thing twice.
I was just thinking the same thing, Samantha. Like if we got like the second and third sentences in the second paragraph and added it to the third paragraph or something like that. I feel like it would sum them both up.
Yeah, and then we would get rid of a lot of those, 4 times it says upload and things like that.
Because there's 2 words upload up on the first, up there underneath documents. There's 2 more down here in the second. Then there's 2 attached words on the last one with another upload document.
Feels like we've got some good feedback to at least put a new draft together so you guys can take a look at it.
James,
Yeah.
can we send out the draft with the notes this next time so that way people can look over it the next 2 weeks before we come back?
I would love that. Especially if you're going to create the draft, Melissa.
I like how that one came out. Talking, we will get this done in 2 weeks.
All right, there's one other thing before we go on, okay, and request 2, we've got to get our house in order before we go forward on that. I think because there's no good will come of opening up another place for feedback if we're not ready to respond to it. So this is good incentive for us to get moving. And then if we go to the next slide, this is where I get to, I feel like I've been doing this a bit, but definitely doing a mea culpa, as they say, where we sent out a couple meetings ago, we sent out the request for a vote. And then we realized, oh, well, how about that? We just pulled these requests off from our standard places, and we didn't have our system in place to really look at them before we asked you to take a look at them, which is just not the way it should work. Because it turns out 2 of them requests 20 and 22 are also what we ran into with the previous one we were talking about. It's too complex for us to do as a work item. These are change requests. So we're going to have to develop a system so we can start prioritizing them. And I'll just warn you right now, when we say change requests, these more complex items, they get into a different stream of things. And there's a big backlog of pretty darn important things that need to go through. So these are get pushed out a little bit. And then there is also another a request. This one, is there a way to flag or send an email to Oregonians via the Oregon One online portal to add a phone number to their account? One of the problems here is that we simply don't have the capacity to have the system emailing people individually like that. It's silly, but that's the world we're living in right now. So Samantha, do you want to say anything about request 19? Anything else to add?
Yeah, I wonder, and I think this one actually came from ECIC, which is our counterpart group of eligibility workers, but they passed it to us, I believe, because it's a change to the one online portal and they wanted us to look at it. I question if sending an email or a text, or obviously not text, sorry, that was silly, an email or a letter to an Oregonian to say, hey, go add your phone number to your case, is for the client's benefit, the customer's benefit, or is it for the caseworker's benefit? We don't require a phone number to apply for benefits. Actually, James and I got to spend some time on Friday helping people get into their one online accounts so they could get phones from the Affordable Connectivity Program. And So there are people who don't even have
used in a while, Chuck. You got
email like that and harassing them for a phone number. So I kind of wondered, like, is this really for our benefit or for the customer's benefit, or was this for caseworkers wanting to have a phone number rather than sending a letter? So yeah, that was just kind of where my brain went on this one, but we don't have the ability to send an email like that from within the one system anyway.
And then toward the bottom of the screen, I know this text is sort of small. There's when an Oregonian applies for a program through the one portal, can a correspondence be created? And as Sam pointed out, there is already an attempt to reach the person and to set up the interview. And I think there is a banner. And again, Sam, I will turn to you to describe this a little more fully.
Sure. So after somebody submits an application or a renewal through the one online portal, if they are required to do an interview, or if they turn it in another way, and they're required to do an interview, the system actually puts a banner on when they log into their one online portal. It'll put a banner up that says, like, hey, you need an interview. And then once the system detects that they have an interview scheduled, that banner goes away and a new banner comes up that says, hey, you have an interview scheduled, and you can click here to see when that interview is. So we kind of already did this in a way. We got there.
What if that interview time is not appropriate? What if they say, oh my gosh, I can't go to that interview at that time, I'll get fired?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have some limited functionality around that. We can basically, what the Oregonian can do is when they go into that screen and they see exactly what it is, they have the choice to leave it how it is, like no action. Okay, yeah, that's fine. It'll work for me. Or they can cancel it and ask for a reschedule. And what that will do is it will send a notification to a worker that that time's not going to work. Reach out and get that reschedule going for them. Reach out to them and find a different time that's going to work. Or just flat out cancel if they decide they don't want those benefits anyway. We don't have the ability right now to let them pick their own time to schedule that appointment. That's a really, really, really big change. It's on the horizon. It's things we're looking at and we know we want to do, but it's a really big change to allow customers to have access to basically our statewide scheduling board. And it would be a very heavy load on the user's computer right now, the way that it is designed. So we need to make some fundamental changes to the way that scheduling board functions so it doesn't completely bog down our customers' computers while they're trying to pick a time. So yes, I think we should.
Thank you. Thank you.
April?
So to my knowledge, and my knowledge basically stops at ERDC stuff, is that the families who are applying for these benefits, if they need an interview, they have to call and schedule it. It doesn't automatically do it for them. And so, yes, letting them know they need an interview is good, but also letting them know how they obtain that interview, I think, is more important. Prior to July 1st, there was a lot of families, their applications being denied because they were missing stuff, and usually it was the interview. They are not always aware of what they're missing. So those are my 2 cents.
That's a great point, April. So when we added that banner, it does actually, it gives them the phone number to call to request that interview. But the state of Oregon is required by our federal partners to reach out to Oregonians to schedule the interview. There is no program for which it is the customer or the applicant's responsibility to reach out to us first. We're supposed to reach out to them. That's federal law. That said, because of the backlogs, I just looked at and reviewed an application for the cash assistance policy unit where The customer did everything they were supposed to do. They applied correctly, submitted fully. A task was created for the worker to call the client to schedule the interview. The client may have even called. They may have even tried to call. We don't know because nobody ever went and picked up that task and worked it. And then after 30 days, it automatically denies. So it's those backlogs that are really killing us. The staff aren't picking up the tasks fast enough to keep them from denying. But it is the state of Oregon's responsibility. And because of that, I know, April, with ERDC going to waitlist, this isn't going to be as much of a problem for you anymore. But I do want to say to this group, because you guys all know so many people and advocate for so many people, if you go through a scenario where you hear of somebody applying and then never hearing from the department and then getting a denial, have them reach out to the governor's advocacy line, because it's the department's responsibility by rule, by law, to reach out. If we didn't, we have to reach out, and then we have to honor that date that they submitted that application and put their benefits back to that date if they're eligible. Squeaky wheels get oil. And I said this on Friday too, talking to advocates in Washington County. Squeaky wheels get oil. Call governor's advocacy if you hear of people who that happens to, for sure. It is the department's responsibility to reach out. But we did add the phone number to that banner as well. So they have the tools. It's just not their responsibility. And I'm going to stop talking because James has casually reminded me off to the side that it's break time.
Oh, could I have to feed the dogs?
Natha, I'd like to suggest that once that is, once what you just said, I think it's that I'm hoping that you could put that in the Oregon State branch offices so consumers can be aware of what you just said. Reach out to the consumers.
It should be there, but you know what? I will touch base with our service delivery folks and see if there's a way that we can get that information out in a better way, because really we do need people to know their rights and to advocate for themselves if we're not doing what we need to for them, for sure.
Thanks. Okay,
All right. Well, I was just going to point out, we are overdue for a break. So let you have 5 minutes here, and then we can talk about the charter and any other topics you want to discuss.
Yep.
Cool.
See you in 5.
Let's say 3:09, although 3:10 is probably more likely, but we'll see you shortly. Done.
Welcome back, everybody in the committee. We had all talked about in our pre-meeting before the other last meeting that did everybody get a chance to go over the charter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A decision was to make sure that the charter would be the last day, which is today. So we can look over it, discuss it and everything. And today will be the last day to put your input to and submit the charter, because we need to be getting on to other and better things, and where things are not having to be backed up of a lot of work that needs to be done. So what I'm going to suggest is let's talk about the charter. Who wants to go first? Judith?
Nope, nothing from me. I read through it, and I don't know too much about charters, but as far as I saw it, it looked pretty good.
Hey, April?
I haven't seen the charter. Oh, here it is. Great. I'll let you know.
So let me just throw in and say that Vanessa sent in some edits. And so I tried to work with them, and so you'll see that red part are changes made, combination of Vanessa and myself, trying to get the spirit of those changes.
Now, as we're going over this charter, please keep in mind that down the road, James, refresh my memory. Is it the second quarter or is it the fourth quarter we agreed to go over the charter again and see if we need to put something different in it?
Wow. I don't remember.
Melissa, do you know?
I don't think we specified. I think we just said either, I think it was once a year is where we landed, right?
I thought it was either the second, and third, or fourth quarter.
You pick, George. We'll do whatever you decide.
What would the group like for this charter? Check back on the second, third, fourth quarter? What is your input on this?
I think once a year should be fine.
Okay. April, Mandy?
Unless something, blazing comes up.
That works for me.
Okay. Dion, Rosetta, Ruth, Sydney, Vixen, what do you think?
The comments in the chat too, George.
I didn't see the chat.
And say, yeah, I commented in the chat. I think as long as we know that things are fluent and we may have to change when we get to review. And so once a year is fine, as long as we keep track of what along the way, the things that we need to remember to change when the time comes.
Okay, what about you, Rosetta? What do you think? Is she here? Ruth?
Once a year is fine.
Okay, Rosetta?
Like she hasn't made it back, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
her chair
okay.
is still empty.
Oh, okay. So did Rosetta say something?
Any other comments on the mission there, since there was some changes? I'm sorry, George, I stepped on your toes. You were finishing that up.
Well, I have a problem with this in a lot of ways because you've got two documents of one. Some of these are policies and procedures, and some of them are your guiding principles. And so I don't know if you're trying to make the two documents in one or if you're planning on having the guiding principles of how you're going to carry out the mission.
Well, to me, I think, I'm okay with this. Now there's the and contractor representatives to make changes within the one system. What's that mean, James?
Well, Vanessa pointed out that we had this sentence, these recommendations will be submitted to make changes within the one system. Well, who are we submitting these to? Was the question. And so I tried to answer it, and we could identify the contractor and say, you know, ODHS and Deloitte. I'm not sure if we need to do that. And I wasn't, and then there's different groups that decide that the work items, the stuff that we've been working in versus the larger change requests. And Samantha, maybe you can help me with this. I was looking for the names of these groups inside, and it just seems like a regular meeting where a bunch of people talk and hammer it out or whatever, but there's not like an official group title, at least in the work items. Maybe there is for change requests, and I'm just not sure.
There are change requests. And I'm just going to leave it there because that process is still a little bit nebulous to me at this point, as it's gone through some changes. Work items, we don't necessarily have a group like that.
Yeah.
And the more specific you have in there, then every time something changes in the system, then you have to go back and change your document.
That's true.
So what would you advise, Ruth?
To go ahead and to like leave it contractors or representative or whoever, whatever the terminology you're using for the people that you're working on the outside, and leave it open-ended so you don't have to change it each time.
So before there wasn't anything listed, it just said recommendations will be submitted and it was blank. So that's where I was like, well, submit it to who? Submit it to Santa, submit it to ODHS. So I think making that clarification that because like this happened, we submitted the change and then the contractor kicked it back and said, no, that isn't a work item. That's something bigger. So we're the ones making the changes in one, like we're suggesting them, but we are submitting them to whoever's next.
Yep.
Pick your bone with them because we move forward the change. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yes. Yes.
Good point. So Samantha, who would be the contract representatives?
Well, I think Samantha said that changes, it depends. So like, that's why like Ruth added like leaving it like that contractor representatives, because it could change, ODHS could change their contract with this person or that person. So just leaving it like, we are just moving it to whoever's that rep at that time and they're moving that forward, but just putting that there. And then for the question of a lot of like the point of the charter is to kind of have all of that policy. This is kind of our guidebook to who we are and what we're doing. So that it's our North Star. So if we ever get lost, we can refer to this. Because I know there was a comment about like there's 10 different things, but I think that's the point of the charter, correct?
James?
Yeah, that's my understanding, but it's for you to decide if you want to keep it.
We would be the ones that would decide, correct? Or just a minute.
Well, yeah, it's a pickle here because as we ran into it today, we decided, but then someone came back and said, well, no, you can't go through this process. You got to go through a more difficult process for it. And so there's not much this group or I or anyone in this meeting can do about that.
So every time we suggest something, it's the people on the outside that makes the decisions. Is this what,
I wouldn't, I mean, that's an interpretation, but I think a more complete answer is, excuse me, we have an existing contract that says this contractor can do so many hours a month of work. And we have a lot of other competing demands on this too. And so if, you know, and there's certain lanes for these smaller things, if we try to put something into the lane where it's a smaller item, it's not our call as to where it goes. I mean, we're going to say, hey, this is a priority, put it in, great, it'll go. But if it doesn't belong there, then it has to belong to another avenue.
okay,
So it's, I mean, we're deciding what to put in, but they'll say, no, that doesn't fit. It's not that they don't like it per se.
okay. Now, none of this is going to take the power away from us, right?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that that's not done to us. So you want us to vote on the mission?
Well, I mean, we just looked at the first part. Angel, if you want to scroll a little further.
Yeah, we need to because we're on limited time here.
I mean, and everyone should have a copy. As you can see, there's no changes in the Article 3 portion. Now you get the Article 4, Vanessa helpfully pointed out, well, you sort of, in section 4.11 there, it's like, hey, there's nothing there for subsection 1, so clean that up. And then I added one other thing there at the bottom of your screen, because this is something that is obviously fresh in our minds. It's like, well, the staff, we need to make sure we're providing informed insistence. You know, we don't want to be sending things to you in the future to say, you know, here, decide on this, and then come back the next meeting, say, oh, just kidding. That's actually not a work item. We're going to try to catch that ahead of time. So I wanted to try to capture that in the roles of the ODHS staff. So you know what you're dealing with.
Okay, and let's do, did you do what I suggested on the terms for the committee?
Oh, you know, I didn't put that in. Let's see.
Because we need to put that in. If the terms are on co-chairs and officers.
So let's see. So say again what you were suggesting, George.
Making, well, remember we were talking about maybe making a lifetime, the difference between making the members a lifetime on this committee versus the term limits.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it this way. You guys, I need your voice on this. Should we leave the term limits alone on the committee members, or should we put term limits on the committee members?
Well, if you do that, you might end up with no committee members.
Putting term limits?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to do some more recruiting. I have been starting to work on that.
But
Okay.
also, if you put, you have to go back and see what were the governing rules that developed this committee. Is there anything in those developing rules that have any say about the membership?
So Ruth, one thing to know about this committee is this is purely an agency committee. There was no legislation that created this.
Okay.
So there's no governing rules like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing like what you and I are on the other one.
Yeah.
Rosetta, what do you think? Mandy? Vixen?
And the question is about term limits for members.
Right.
So since I kind of came in later with like joining the group, I will admit it's a little bit interesting. It takes a couple to get into what's happening. And then once you get comfortable, then you feel like you can engage a little and stuff. So I get term limits, but could we also maybe see if like there's a flex of like if somebody's term is ending, but somebody new is coming in, that there's kind of an overlap so that, because I know it took me a couple before I could really be understanding of what was happening. And so I feel like if you ended up having some people term that are really engaged and knowing, and that you may end up with more of a, I don't want to say like a null, but a little bit more harder interaction or harder things to get input on. I don't know if that even made sense.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It made sense to me. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
It-
Yeah.
And term limits sometimes does away with longevity, knowing where the group has been and where we're coming and what we've accomplished, so as to know what we want for a goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for committee members, I don't think there should be term limits. And I mean, because the co-chairs, if they reach their 2 consecutive terms in the same position, that's 4 years, right? So at the end of 4 years, if they just want to go on to the committee and then we appoint other co-chairs, then we still have a cohesive group with a rich background of where we came from and what we're doing. And so I think term limits for the chairs are fine, but I think for the committee, as long as you feel like you can put in 2 cents, you got to stay on.
Okay. Mandy, what do you think?
I honestly don't. I'm kind of indifferent here. I mean, I could see where it could be beneficial if there was like limited slots and giving others an opportunity to be a part of this. But I think right now we still have space for more to join. Is that right, James?
Yeah.
So I think it would kind of depend on how full we were and, remembering that we want as many voices as possible, right? So if we don't have a limit, then that wouldn't open up spaces once we were full to have others join. So that would be my concern.
Okay. And April, you already said something, right, April?
Okay, I should point out, we are actually a little past time, but April, I didn't want to step on anything if you're going to say something.
I just agree with the group. I don't think term limits for committee members is necessary.
Okay, Rosetta? Hub?
I just put in there that I like having a description of the length of service needed for each committee member, because I won't be able to stay on this committee indefinitely, but I can commit to the time that I signed up for. I do agree that there shouldn't be term limits where we get kicked off after a certain time if we're able to continue participating, but I like having that description of the time commitment.
Okay, Cindy, Hub? What's
I
your,
don't- I don't think they're necessary at this time, personally.
okay. And who else am I missing? Rosette, okay, Hub, what do you think?
Oh, me? Sorry. Well, when you were saying Hub, I'm like, who's Hub? I forgot to change my name. I don't think we should put in term lengths for committee members. And I also think it's just leave it open and flow, because sometimes you need someone with longevity who's been there, done that. What if, you have a ton of new members and say, oh, we should do this. And you have someone that's, been around saying, we tried that, that didn't work. So I just think leaving it open, if you obviously are holding a position, of course, having those terms for just committee members, it should be open.
Okay, so as it stands, let it be known that the charter is going to be our charter. Leave the term limits out. It's been agreed upon. Leave term limits out for committee members. And James, Samantha, Melissa, Angel, you've got your answer.
Cool. Yeah, and we should put in, our yearly review of the charter. That was another decision made. We're going to get notes from this meeting, get the requests, 6 text to you, and and this charter. And I think we can take a final vote on the overall charter next time, I suppose. But thank you so much for sticking around. We're past time. We'll see you in a couple of weeks at earlier time, not 2 o'clock, but 1:30.
Okay, so we're going to sign off. Hope everybody's safe, and I will see you in the next meeting.
October 1st,
November.
November 1st, October 1st. Yeah, I'll see you. Okay, November 1st.
November 8th.
We're going to see you in November.
Okie dokie.
Be safe. Bye, guys.